Just a couple days there. Well, I think that we're live. Hello, YouTube. It's Cord Campbell. Let me switch the... Let's see, we've got to switch this. Not that it matters much, but we're going to switch it anyway. So downloads. Yeah, that's it right there. API docs cleanup. Coding Mitta. Save. We should be good. Let's see what we sound like. I sound good. I was having problems earlier. I had to kill the stream, so that's why I was fiddling around with the title again. All right. So, fixing my hair, and let's get to work. So, today we're going to be doing documentation cleanup. I'm going to go through real quick what we did last time. I did finish up a few things on stream. Off stream from what we were working on. Before I do that, let me pop this out and pop it over to the other window, just in case somebody comes in. I'm not getting a lot of views, so I'm not going to really worry about it too much. If the audio sounds like crap midway through, then it's just going to have to be that way. Sounds fine to me. So sounds a lot better than it did earlier. I don't know why sometimes whenever the computer goes to sleep and then it wakes back up, then it comes in and it's just like too much. But I knocked the mic off, but this is not a super expensive mic, but it is probably susceptible to being hurt. That's how I killed my other mic. I had a really nice blue bottle and I killed it. I probably should have kept it and fixed it, but whatever. Sometimes you just gotta let things go. Sometimes things get thrown away, sometimes things get damaged. That's this impermanence of life, I believe. All right, so we've got the app running, and I'm gonna go over, I need to do a pull here, I think. I've got something or another with shell. I can't do that. The path's not in the working traits because it's in web. Oh, so I'm changing the entity stuff. I tell you what, I'm gonna wipe that. So I'm gonna wipe the shell and then I'll do a git pull. That should work. And then we restarted. Now let's go in and take a look at, right before I turn down dead mouse so that I don't get a copyright strike in North Korea. I don't know why. It's like whenever YouTube hears me playing music, then it goes, oh, you can't play it in North Korea. Like I have viewers anyway, it doesn't really matter. That's not a thing that's a thing anyway, so I don't have viewers in North Korea for sure. So what we did is we were messing around with in the last stream, we're messing around with the upload tool. And here's how that works. Let me show that. 362.570. 362.570. So we did something like this, and I think we now we can do a create. And that is broken because I think shell is busted now. So we're gonna go in here and fix this real quick. And then we'll get back into the API docs. This is broken on production as well, so I want to fix it. So we'll talk a little bit about what I did to upload. I added a create handler, and then there's subbed out as the delete handler. This is just for the app. I mean, we already have the methods for deleting spools and creating spools. And spools are targets for uploading images, and the idea is that what I need to do is get the upload tool running again in the shell. So, and I did do that, but then I've started messing around with renaming the spools because they're named weirdly, and so we'll do that first. I think the sidekick function, I think everything is broken at this point, so help should be broken too. Yep. And the reason why is it says builder object has no attribute sidekick. And the reason it says that this one. There we go. And the reason that has happened is there's Joe's dad sleeping. The reason that has happened is because I'm trying to use friendly names for the spools. The spools have hashes for names, and then what I did is I needed some way of like naming the sidekicks something besides their friendly name. You see they have a friendly name here, like in this case it says Gamey Russet Dane. I don't know why the screen just shifted like that, just some weird Windows thing. And so when we look at that, as humans it's easy, but then whenever the computer's dealing with it, number one, I don't want a collision on the sidekicks, which will happen eventually, and it won't be pretty, so it'd just be better to use hashes that we're not going to have a collision on. And so let me close all these down real quick. So we want models, and we want shell, this one here. And so in shell, I've got this thing, list all the users index. So this is the console handler, and then we have the JavaScript handler. So the console handler is what serves up this page, and then the JavaScript handler is what happens when we run a command. And in this case, we're doing a query here for, so we have something called sidekick mark. And we have spool. And what I'm thinking about is target ID, sidekick ID, sidekick ID. And the sidekick ID comes from here, from the current user ID settings, which is fine. So that's just set in settings. Target ID line. So I think I'm going to take out these two. Oh, I can't take out target ID, but I can take out this side. Well, do I take out the sidekick ID? No, I can't take out the sidekick ID. I can take out the spool. And the sidekick mark. Now let's go into shell HTML. So this is the JavaScript handler here. So this should still reload. We should still be able to load the page. Oh, line 130 in models. Oh, I've saved something in there strange. Oh, this thing right here. NDB string property. This is the sidekick smooth. Alright, now it's running. Now let's reload this. So this should still load the shell. Yeah, the page still works, but this should still not work when we run this. Oh, that does work now. That's good, actually. Okay, so now we need to type in something like help at, doesn't matter what we type there. And what we want, so let's do a test one. Let's do a test command. Do we have one in here we can use already? So like I have a couple of them that don't make any sense. Let's see if sidekick works. I doubt it will. So we should just fix that one. No, that does work. I guess the sidekicks are currently named that, so if we delete this, so it's not getting the sidekick name passing in there. That's fine. So we're gonna fix this now. So let's see here. Inspect console. Interesting. I think that was from earlier. It's probably from earlier. Nope. Unrecognized expression pound help target. It's kind of interesting. I have no idea where that's coming in from. Not a clue. Tag. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know where that error is coming from. I'll look at that later. That's probably something I was doing with trying to get the help stuff working. When you first log in, you can do this, and it'll type in that help. And so I think that's probably where that's coming from. Probably. Let's see if something else also causes problems. So let's see. I know grub is broken. Yeah. I've broken everything. It's the way it goes sometimes. That actually worked. Well, that's good. Okay, so the settings working? Settings is working. And grub is working, so it's showing us the image it made of Google News, which is good. Help is having some issues. Now, is that because this right here, this click function, maybe? That's probably what is the problem. So if we put, let's see, let's just put a D in here. Let's see if that shows us that error real quick. So that was in here when we were I'm trying to hit help, and it says, yeah, there's the D right there. So it says uncaught error, syntax error, unrecognized expression, yada yada yada, and it says help target. So that's just in help. That's just an error in help. So it's not some system error, so I'm just going to blow it off for now. That's fine. I was working on help, trying to get these things working, and they don't work. Right now they don't work, but I was trying to get them working again, and they need to be made a little bit more robust where you can string the commands out inside of them as needed. So I was trying to make it to where links in general, if you click on a link, for example, I think search should still be working. Yeah, it is. And then I think that works. That does work. We have a little problem in that if we click on something like this, it's currently logging that stuff for me, whatever's on the line that I'm clicking on. And it was, if I click on something off, it does this strange, it's very strange. It's like if you watch it here, it goes to, it's as if it thinks it's bookmarking it. And so if you go to something like this with Mitta, and then you put in mitta.us in the front of it, and you hit enter like this, it'll ask you to, I mean, it's doing this on production, but it'll ask you to log in, and then it'll save that URL for you, and it'll index it. It basically is a pass-through to entering a grub command automatically, which is kind of nice. I got that idea from save.io. That's how they work. All right, so anyway, back to the issue at hand, which is, well, grub is working, sidekicks are not working. So we just need to fix that real quick. And then I could possibly get the uploader running again and then fix the docs. That's what we're going to do today. All right, so this is, let's see, if I do this one, this is not gonna work because it doesn't have the sidekick name. So let's look at the request that's being made here and identify what's going on. So this, so it looks like it's just not pulling out in because the response is what it is. It's saying, this is a little odd the way that this works, but it's actually kind of awesome too, is that it basically it'll stick the sidekick name in there, and then this will evaluate to true if it doesn't. And so because it's failing to enter it in there, that's why it's saying this. So it's kind of a way I handle errors. And when you change the back end a little bit, then that's what happens to it. So here we're going to go in to the index. I believe this is where shell, sorry. And here we need somewhere in here, if we look at our response on Sidekick, we have something called sidekick mark. And I took that out. And the sidekick mark is supposed to be whatever the sidekick is. And I think that I'm going to change that to sidekick ID. Well, actually, it's sidekick name now. And sidekick name. And we have this thing called sidekick ID right here, which comes in from shell HTML, I think. Right here. I'm trying to standardize all these to where it's sidekick name. So this is gonna break things for a bit. Let's see here. We're just gonna search for sidekick ID and then replace all those name. I mean, ID might be a little bit more sane in this case, but I think that I don't want to change the models. So it's got it as name in here, so it's sidekick name and sidekick nick. So the nick would be this name, will be this name, and the sidekick name has been redone to use the format that I use on the spools, which is to create a, spools are down here, is to use a hash on the spool as well. So we're using a random string hash. This is like this random string function in lib, in util, I should say, in libutil is right here, random name, this generate, random string is this. And this should be somewhat secure. Like, it's not a password token or anything like that, but it's like it. And it's it uses the random choice function, which supposedly is a pretty good way of generating IDs. So, and then we have a way to generate a slug with a random name. And with those two methods, we have a way to generate something that's random, that is something that a human can remember, and then we have something that we can use that's unique across the system, that's not really, I mean, it'll come through the APIs, but at least this way we can address the sidekicks and the index names and the spool names with a hash that won't create collisions across users. That's the idea. And I wanted to make it needed to be done to make it secure, so that's what we've done. So we have a nick and a name for both of those. So we had sidekick nicks and names, and we have spools nicks and names. Okay, so we're gonna go back into close util. We're gonna go back into shell, and here, let me think about this. So we're getting the sidekick name here, so we're pulling in the sidekick settings value. This is for the user, so this needs to be the sidekick nick. And then the sidekick setting value, JSON load sidekick setting value. That should work. Well, so we're gonna print the sidekick nick here. All right. I'm gonna run this. So we have it. It's loading it from the settings, and then it says name sidekick ID is not defined. We just need to search. Yeah. So this becomes Nick. This becomes Nick. I need to go check in the models real quick. So we have this get by UID Nick in here. Need to make sure that's done for sidekicks as well. Get by UID Nick, that's also done there. So now we can look it up by the Nick for the user ID, which is fine. It's just whenever we're looking at the spools, for example, in the data store, or even the sidekicks, you can see the names are, I mean, that's where the collision would happen. And then sidekicks are, sorry, the spools are sort of the same way. So here's the name. Here's the name for the spools. But then we need nicks for all these, and these will get nicks that are like the sidekick nicks. So each spool will have a funny name associated with it, so that it's not confusing to the user. I think this will be probably okay for launch. So we have this thing here, sidekick ID. Now that comes out from, that's name, and we got sidekick name here. And then in index here, we've replaced sidekick ID, but we need the sidekick name. Actually, it says name. So we're saying from the user will make it to the name, but then we don't want to use the name anymore. We want to use the nick. So that becomes nick. So the user will still make calls to the APIs, but we need to look it up by nick now instead of by name. So really, the name is just ends up being used with Solr. This becomes Nick, and then sidekick equals sidekick query filter, and then we got to look it up by Nick, and then this becomes name equals sidekick name, so that we can get the name, because we were using the nick to look it up, and then now that name's the same. So that's for delete. Now indexing a document, so we're going to send it to the nick instead of the name, and then the nick We've got to do the same thing for uploads as well, so we're going to go through that process here in a second, and then it should be fixed. And then this is the nick. And this is the name, so we actually have to do this. Actually, we have the name. Boy, that's unfortunate. I'm glad I fixed this. I think I remember this wasn't secure, but this is not good. So I'm going to look up the sidekick. So the sidekick equals get by UID nick, and that's so this was to index. So I need to look up the document. And then if it, yeah. And then this becomes nick here. So I didn't have error handling there, which is good that I fixed this. So this becomes the nick. And then these both these become nick. Yep, and then that's fine. But then in the index, we still use name, so this becomes sidekick name. And then we render the response. This is where it would be helpful if I had saved all the queries for this, so it'll be fine. We can test pretty easily with the UI. Okay, here we're looking it up, so we've got to do the exact same thing here. So we've got to change all of these. So we've got to change this. What I've discovered is that it's hard to name the episode before I do it, because sometimes I end up working on things that I didn't think I was going to work on. In the response post, requests post to the sidekick.name. So we want to continue using the name while talking to Solr. ID, doc ID. That all looks good. Okay, let's go back through this real quick. The index APIs are not that long. So here we're going to create a new sidekick for the user. We check the sidekick count. If we're over quota, then we say this. There is no name at this point. Sidekick equals create. We create it by the user ID. Then we return the sidekick. And sidekick JSON is returned, which gives us a hint that our API sidekick needs to be changed. Sidekick JSON. But we already have that in here, sidekick name and nick. Alright, so let's pop back over and look at index. Now let's try this and see if it works. So we're going to do curl that, it's just a post, so post HTTP localhost 8080/I, and then the token equals. I'm going to go grab our token real quick. Hopefully that is still working. There's our token, and we're going to paste that in here now. Over quota for sidekicks. That's fine, but we need to delete one, so we can do that through here. So I'm going to delete which one are we? We're using Gamey Russet Dane, so I'm gonna delete Tacky Olive Dragon. See you later, Dragon. And actually, I'm gonna delete Agile Gibbon of Upgrade as well. All right, now I'm gonna rerun this. Sidekick. Okay, this is great. So Sidekick object. Sidekick has no attribute Solr cluster, and that's correct because I changed it to box, I think. So let's look at here at Sidekick. So I changed it to, well, it says Solr URL. And here this says Solr cluster. Solr cluster. I wonder if we should use Solr name, maybe? I don't know, maybe we should just take it out. It doesn't matter. I'm not using it anywhere. Let's see if it's in Sidekick. It's not even in here. It's not being reported at all. So let's try that again, that should work. It says, so the error was in line 47, set attributes in model line 47. I think that's what we just fixed. Nope. What does this say? Oh, that's the NDB model. Models line 164. So that was here. So that's right. So we've updated it here. It's just a setting I don't use. There's only one Solr box right now, but in the future there will be multiple Solr boxes or a Solr cluster with a maybe a collection. I don't know. Like it's probably. I have no idea if that's going to be used or not. I haven't determined how to implement the Solr backend for production. That'll be done last. That'll be almost the last thing. Like the last things to do is like hook up payments, and there's a bunch of work to do before that's done, obviously. And then the last thing would be to do is hook up whatever permanent Solr storage solution I end up with. Right now, I just have these. Preemptible instance. I use a preemptible instance for the Solr instance. In fact, Grub uses a preemptible instance, but it's being managed by the Grub group. So when that instance is torn down, it restarts it for me automatically. In this case, this instance is not. I could do the same thing with the Solr instance, but if we upgraded it, we'd lose the indexes. So I haven't done that. But this box just will shut itself down, and I just start it again, and it works. So it's got a shutdown script for shutting down Solr in it right now, but this is less than ideal. It's not being backed up. So like something will need to be replace this, and we'll figure that out later. All right, so let's try this again. This should work now. And it does. And so now you can see we have a name, which will be the index name, and a sidekick is the index. I'll be right back. down there, and I mentioned in the email, I go down there, and this guy that been working on Dolly, he works for OpenAI. There's a guy standing from OpenAI. I pull up my truck. I'm like, hey man, do you want this pipe? He's like, sure. He's like, hey Cord, meet this guy. It's Guy Scott. He's a friend of his from college, and he works for OpenAI and hangs out with Elon Musk. And did that Dolly thing, which is basically each things, or has an imagination of things. It's so weird. But anyway, I don't know. This is what's happening to me right now in space. So I can help you with that. I think there's a connection there. All right, man. Thank you for your time today. Okay. Okay. I'll talk to you soon. Thank you. Bye. All right, I'm back. Okay, so looks like we were able to create that sidekick. So now what we want to do is try to delete it. Let's take a look at that call. That's going to be an index. And that's this one. So we're going to need to check the list, which should work. Did we update the sidekicks? Yep. Okay, so we're going to try the delete function because we just created one, so now we're going to delete it. And we're going to do that with the /i and its nick. So we got to put the nick in here. So this is proud modeled puffin, and then this is a delete on it, and there was a success on that. And now we're going to get a list, and the list is a git. So we delete this, and we should only have one, and now we should have two. And there's two of them. And we don't have a nick on Gammy Russet Dane because it was created beforehand. So now what we want to do is we want to force that auto assignment that's done by shell to make sure that's working. So we're going to delete the current Gamey Russet Dane. We're going to delete that one. All right, confirm that. And then we're going to reload the page. And then say something that, and we don't have it. So there's nothing there. So that's not working. And let's look at our settings. Here. And it says the value is the sidekick ID, or the sidekick name. And that would be correct because that's what shell is assigned to do. Correct. If the target was sidekick's prompt, here, print sidekick nick, get by settings user ID, sidekick ID. So this is the sidekick nick. And here's the nick. And we want to use it by nick. The name is the name of the setting. Okay, let's reload the page. Still nothing. Let's look at our settings. So it is saying that it's sticky denim guppy. And it's giving us the name instead of the ID, instead of the nick, sorry. So we're going to scan for name. We're looking up the sidekick, sorry, the setting for it, and we're saying sidekick nick equals JSON load sidekick setting value. Then we're printing it. We should probably look it up there. This is when the JavaScript command runs though, so we wouldn't expect to get back another sidekick. I mean, it's not that big of a deal that we're not doing it there. So there are no sidekicks. Sidekicks setting. Sidekicks get all, list all users' indexes. So let's refresh this. So we're definitely getting the objects we expect here. So let's delete this. And then let's refresh this page. And then let's look at the sidekicks. We should have a sidekick. We do. But let's go look in sidekick, the command, which really just operates on the, so this is the nick. We'll clarify here, this is a nickname. I mean, really it was either use ID and name, where the ID is the hash, or we use name and nick. So we ended up using name and nick. This is the 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 nick. So anywhere else, yes. Nick here equals the sidekick nick. See, I was using mark before, so I actually had three different, I guess 2 different ones. I was sort of indicating that. So here's the, this is the setting. So that's actually is the name there. No, it's the nick. Okay, let's try this again. Okay, that looks better. So if we say that, that looks good. And then we're going to create a new one. Thankful jackdaw of opportunity. I'm the active index. Okay, so now we're going to look at the sidekicks again. And let's see if we can delete this original one. That didn't work. Let's look at why. We'll look at the network query. And what happened? The delete equals delete. Delete requested. Let's see if we can delete the one that's active and if that works. Didn't say anything. So there was no query here. This is true. No sidekick mark found. So we want to look back inside of there's sidekick Nick there. Oh, sidekick Mark. That's in the else statement though. We'll do a quick alert and see if we can get anything popping out. So that's working at that point. Yeah. Please specify a sidekick nickname. So let's try to do this. So I don't think the sidekick nick is being provided to us. Is that right? So let's look at the inspector again. What we want to do here is we want to maybe console log the sidekick nick. Like this. And we go onto the console. It is Thursday, so they're blowing. That's what happens on Thursday. So there is the sidekick nick. Sidekick nick is not defined. Where? Oh. Oh, we didn't reload the page. I'm going to view the source. And it should have sidekick nick up here now. Oh, we haven't set the name. That is in shell. And this should be sidekick nick. We don't need the name. When we do the real reference of the sidekick nick to that, we're going to call this Nick. Like that. Okay, now we're going to reload this page. There we go. And then do we have anything else in there with the name? Yeah, there it is right there. How many different places is it? That should do it. Okay, now we're going to reload the page, and we should be in business now. Well, that's nice, but that's not what I asked you to do. Why did you respond that way? Network. So it says here if text equals create, which it doesn't. Else if text equals delete, which it doesn't. Else if thankful jackdo of opportunity equals that. Else change to a sidekick check exists. So get done. That sidekick doesn't exist. What does it say? I'm the active index. Else if the result failed. Is this valid JSON? How many times have I asked if it's valid JSON? It's what you always ask. So it's valid JSON. Okay, so it's valid JSON and we have the nick and the name in there now. So here it says, so I'm not asking for a create. There I'm asking for a create. And it says, so then that did create it, but then he's saying I'm the active index. But I don't need a list. I'm not asking for a list. I am asking for a list, but I don't need to type list is what I'm saying here. So it's coming back and it's dropping to here. So if data result equals fail, error updated, else. If great news equals false. If sidekick Nick equals tungsten mule of luck. Great news equals true. Well, doesn't it? Each what are we really saying there though? We're saying get I here, get this. For each data in sidekicks, if the sidekick Nick equals tungsten mule of luck, great news equals true. So per sidekick, function index sidekick, if sidekick Nick equals tungsten mule of luck, then great news. So let's try this. So let's, not there, but here in sidekick, what we want to do is great news. Where's great news? Here. We want to say console log sidekick. Like that. And then we're going to run this. And we're going to look at the console. Let's clear that. Yeah. We're going to run that. And there they are. So we have sidekick name and nick. Name and nick. Name and nick. And so it should be tungsten mule of luck. Right here, this one. So if that one is equal to here, if sidekick nick, here, this, is equal to the sidekick nick, and if we can see that in the network setting, we can say this thing is equal to the tungsten mule of luck, then great news equals true. So all that's saying is that if great news equals true, then well, we are running this. So we're running this, and then we're posting I think that's the right, I think that code is right. We're not supposed to be in here for some reason. Well, something's foobarred. Oh, you know what? The mark, it's the mark stuff. I've forgotten that the mark is that's the mark. This is the mark. And I've changed the mark. That's the sidekick mark, so I've made an error in my ways. I've made an error. Okay, so what we need to do is we need to fix it to where the mark stuff is fixed. Oh. So I'm gonna go to GitHub. So in sidekick.js, line 27, this says if sidekick mark. So this should, I changed this to Nick, but it should be mark. I know I was blabbing along about it. Else if sidekick mark, this should be sidekick mark as well. Okay. And then in web shell, this is sidekick mark. So we're gonna go to shell line 192. Here, I took it out. Oh, sidekick. And I'm going to call it sidekick mark this time. And that's a comma on the end of it. Now we need to go into builder. And this will be a named entity. But then that's... Oh, you know what? So this is the entity. We're going to call them entities. We could call it target entity, but I'm just going to call it entity. Okay, so entity. Here I'm calling it name. We could call it Nick. Let's call it Nick. Lucky Nick. That's what we want. It's just a Nick. So this is not, this is Nick. Nick. Okay. Then we have to go back into here, shell. Well, shell. We're in shell, we've done that here, and then we've got to go back into sidekick. And this is where, I mean, is it a Nick? I mean, it is a Nick. I mean, it's a Nick in the command. I don't know. So we're going to use Nick as well in spools. So, all right, so this should work, I think. Might be a little confusing logic-wise. That's not what I'm expecting, but I need to reload this, I think. Seriously? Okay, well, let's look at let's inspect this. Did we save all that? We did. So network, and let's clear this out, and let's hit up on this. So here's this. So it says, well, it's not a create, and it's not a delete, so otherwise it's this. If not a create or delete, but a list or change, and then here would be the list. So let me look at that. That's the else here, this thing. Well, that's just if the nick is not given. Oh, no sidekick mark is found. So this is just nick, not sidekick nick. Now it should work. There we go. And now we can delete this one. Please delete. No, it's not deleting. Okay, so let's check the delete function here. We probably borked it as well in here. Okay, so let's take out this and see if it gives us that error. Okay, that's right. And then here, this is actually the nick. Like so. So let's try that again. That should work now. It doesn't. Oh, equals nick. Which has got to be in shell. So this has to be nick equals the nick. So that's sort of how it works, is it's update sidekick nick equals nick. I think so this is all in shell HTML. So that was in shell, but what did... I've completely gone off in some strange... silly coding. Okay, so we've got update sidekick with the name, sidekick ID equals the name. The nick, I think that's right. I don't know. I'm just gonna try it and see what happens. This logic is making my head hurt. I know I wrote it. That should list them, but it's not now. So that there's something. This is like the sidekick doesn't know who it is anymore, right? Like yeah, there's not something's not working here. Let's see. Sidekick nick is not defined, so this has to be sidekick nick. But then there has to be, and this has to be sidekick nick. Because that's the way to deal with the sidekicks. But then we're updating it with the nick. When we call update sidekick, we're calling it in with the nick. And then we're updating sidekick nick. Yeah, right. So we're pulling the nick out of the, this is the nick. So if we do something like this, like that, something like that, then that, I'm sorry, with an @ sign on the front of it, then that becomes the nick. And because it couldn't find that, that's why I did that. So now if I run sidekick, it should list the sidekicks, and then if I delete one of them, that's deletion error. Okay, well that's good that we're at least getting a deletion error. So let's look here what we, maybe the sidekick doesn't exist. Oh, it's got an @ sign on the front of it. So when we specify it here in shell, we've got to take off the front part of it, and I just forgot that code. So like that, because it's gonna, it comes back with an @ sign on the front of it. Now that should work. Sidekick really good. Okay, now we fixed it. Okay, so now if we tell grub to work, is it gonna work? Please work. Let's index something else. Let's go to Google. Let's go to Hacker News. So I was thinking about doing a new series called Hacker News Rants. I can't stand Hacker News. I really can't. It's like an echo chamber, and there was some explanation of why it's an echo chamber, and it's basically. Let's go in here and look at something that. Something that's this one. Let's do this and see if there's a downvoted vote. So let's see what this says here. Okay, so somebody makes a comment. Okay, here that so there's a female founder secrets fertility. Because of our women need to consider the timing of children a lot more urgently than men. Startups take longer than you think. You should have a 5-10 year horizon at least, which is the truth. I'm gonna have to work on this thing for 5 years to make it. And the period when it starts to start up and when you can relax a little is growing all unpredictable. Okay, so anyway, the only logical answer here is youth. The younger you are, the more fertile you are. This is true for both men and women, but more true for women. If you want children at some point in life, then prioritize children first and early. So. Who knows if this is a guy or not, but whatever. And then this person says it's completely unethical to have your kids, and like another commenter has said, brings great disadvantage economically. I would suggest to anyone not to follow your advice. And then the advice was, the only logical answer is youth. This is completely clear based on my commute time to work, closer to downtown where I live, all kind of clinics for young mothers and more poor when I work. Where I work is the wealthiest country per capita in Texas, and there are fertility clinics lining the street. Difference is striking. People who put their careers first have more trouble having children, are willing to pay massive sums of money to fix biology. Well, she's using the word your ambitious career, so this is advice that is being rendered. So this person is saying it's completely unethical to have kids. It's completely unethical to have kids, and like another commenter has said, it brings a great dissatisfaction economically. I would suggest to anyone to not follow your advice. We'll be further commenting on the topic because some people ask everyone, where are you going to have kids? When are you going to have kids like me? Are just going to downvote. Yes, I'd rather see an end to humankind because that ends suffering. Less suffering in a universe is better than a universe experience more. Yes, nobody cares about the ones that wish they'd never been born because of whatever reason that was inflicted on them. Brings a great disadvantage. Yeah, but you forgot about my platinum enterprise grade DNA, really good for the economy as a whole. Other people are going to have kids, their kids will. So somebody got voted down for saying it's unethical to have kids. And I guess that's somewhat of an echo chamber. I mean, this person is getting voted down because they think, I mean, there are more people getting voted down. Well, it's the same person. What kind of vote? They have 24 karma, and You know, they gotten voted down. And I mean, really, I don't know. Anyway, but here's what we're going to do. It's an echo chamber. I don't necessarily agree that it's unethical to have kids. I had kids. I think it's fine. One of my kids doesn't want to have kids because she thinks it's unethical. So, well, I guess that tells you which one. But let's do this. She's young. She'll figure it out. Okay, so we got a title, but it doesn't say it's been indexed. Inspect. Sidekick ID is not defined. And this is probably, yeah, it does show it to us. Okay, so in Grub, we've got a reference to Sidekick ID. So here's what I'm going to do with that. Is I'm going to go in here and I'm going to grep like this. And where do I got it? It's in search, which means search is not going to work. And it's in Solr. Okay, so it's in search. It's in shell. It's in shell. It can't be in shell. I thought we took it out of there. Oh, okay, whatever. It's not in shell. It's commented out. Where else is it? It's in, it says it's in grub.js and search.js. So let's pull up grub.js. I've made a mess of changing things, but hey, now we have these handy names. So there it is right here. So this is the sidekick Nick. And that value is pulled in from shell.html. So it comes in from here. Right here. Because this pops up in context of that file. Okay, so that's the only place it was. Here's spool name. So that becomes the spool nick. I don't know if I want to, I guess we're going to start hacking on that right now too. So we got to do this. You know, well, I don't know if I want to do that right now. That's going to open up a whole nother ball of wax. Number one, the way that this is addressed here with the spool name is that's part of the URL. And I don't think I want those nicks in the URLs whenever you look at pictures or images. So, okay, so the search.js, it's in search.js as well. So this is just dealing with the index names. So now we're saying, yo, you need to use the nick instead of the name. But then it's going to be in search pi. And we can see that there. So we've got several instances of it in search pi. So we got to go to search pi here. Here's the sidekick ID, which is now the nick. And this becomes the nick. How are we doing on time? Yep, minute 20, hour 20. Sidekick nick. Nobody has said anything, so it's just me. Okay, sidekick name. So we're gonna say sidekick ID. So now here we want it to be the sidekick ID. But then the problem is that we've probably looked it up. See, we've looked it up here, but we really need to do something like this. So we need to actually look it up. So can we look it up here? We've got builder URLs. We don't have any models. Do I just assume it's secure? mean, I feel like it should be the nick here. So what we're gonna have to do is we're gonna have to import. So we're gonna have to do something like from where was that? We were putting it between Flask and here, yeah, because it's the model. So that's where it goes right there. And then we've got to do a next sidekick, create, get by user ID nick here, where here. Like that. We should handle if the sidekick, we can't get it, but we're not handling that, which is probably unfortunate, but. And then this is the sidekick name. And that's the sidekick name. And this is sidekick name. So there's the nick, it's being called by the nick, we look it up here. And then we have search, and that's the only method we have here is search. So this should work now. Not found reported, okay? So inspect, network, clear this. Saying it can't find the, so it's doing a request to tungsten mule of luck, and that's the index here. So, and it's doing a post to it. So it's posting indexing a document. It's attempting to index a document. So it says nick here, and then it's saying sidekick not found, and I'm saying by user ID and nick. So it's saying if not sidekick. So I'm going to say sidekick is not found. And then we're going to rerun this. Sidekick is not found. So why is the sidekick not found? So it's saying sidekick get by user ID and nick. Nick equals nick. Well, the nick looks correct. That's tungsten mule luck right there. I would assume that it's in the data store. It's not. Oh, it's probably some weird thing where I created it and it didn't, it created it and then it had it, but then there was nothing. So let's see here. In other words, like there was some error. Invisible Martin of Inquire. Okay. Now let's grub. Does that still work? No, that's not gonna work. Let's copy this again. That looks good. That's been indexed. So that tells me that it's been indexed right there. That's an indication it's been indexed. And so, should come back and image it for us here in a second. That says try to search for it. Okay. What is the story here? There's an error. Nick is not defined. Line 38 in search. Booty booty boo. I'm saying it's Nick. That's what I was doing on the other one. Like that. See, by copying that from the other file, I'm causing it this way, this method to be standardized, right? And there it is. Great. So now, I don't know why, and this undefined is coming in because this is that's just the description, which is not working. Okay, well, we have that cleaned up, so I'm going to end the stream here. I've got a family emergency to deal with, and what time are we at? We're at 1:26, so resume later, and that fixes things, so I'll retitle the episode, and then I'll be back with you. Thank you. I'll see you guys later.